the word ass has many different ways in which it is used inside of the English language. For example, the most common is used as a noun, meaning butt or rectum or bum or shithole or, just any synonym for the place at the end of your large intestine where you expel fecal matter. It is also used as a word used in conjunction with adjectives in slang. What I mean by that is if something is stupid, if you're calling someone stupid, right? Instead of just saying, that's a stupid person, you say, that's a stupid ass person, It's kind of used like that. And it is also used as an adjective itself, as a synonym for bad. You can call it, you say, that's bad, that's ass, that's dog shit, stuff like that. Or that's buns, that's cheeks. But ass is very much commonly used in that context. So what does this have to do with what I'm talking about today? Well, I'm glad you asked. Our Communist Party and the 8th Route and New Fourth Armies led by our party are battalions of the Revolution. These battalions of ours are wholly dedicated to the liberation and the people and work entirely in the people's interests. Comrade Chinese name was in the ranks of these battalions. All men must die, but death can vary in its significance. The ancient Chinese writer, Chinese name, said, though death befalls all men alike, it may be weightier than Mount Tai or lighter than a feather. Now, when the multiple uses of the word ass come into play when you use multiple of them at once. I mentioned earlier, if you wanted to call something bad, you could say it is ass. But since that is an adjective, you also use the linkage word ass, right? So you could say something is an ass thing, right? But what if the thing you're calling ass is an ass? Say you want to call someone's ass. You would say that is an ass. That is what you would say. Now, ass not only as like a specific noun, but say you wanted to say a noun with the word ass in it. Like instead of saying fart, you could say ass burp. And if someone farted really badly, you could call it if someone farted really badly, you could call it an ass. An ass burp. Now, let's talk about something completely unrelated. Now, let's talk about something completely unrelated. Professional sports. Baseball is a game played with a ball, specifically a baseball. Baseball is played with a baseball. What? That's strange. Basketball is played with a basketball. Are we serious right now? Like, that's so stupid. Why is the name of the thing used to play the sport and the sport the same word? That's so stupid. You need to change it. Let me elaborate a little bit on what I mean. This is a toy drill. Instead of playing baseball with a baseball, it should be called a baseball ball. And the same thing for basketball. You should play it with a basketball ball. And this makes sense because if you look at other sports, such as hockey, hockey is played with a hockey puck. But the sport is not called hockey puck. The sport is called hockey, played with a hockey puck, right? Tennis ball. You don't play tennis with a tennis ball. You play tennis with a tennis ball because the sport is called tennis. The sport is not called tennis ball. If the sport was called tennis ball, then you should play with a tennis ball, because that would be what would make sense, right? It's only logical. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me, I was born yesterday. I'm still getting the hang of like drinking and stuff. It's very difficult drinking, I'll tell you. You want to try? Here. Well, I do say so. That was very impressive. Holy shit. He's a master at drinking green water. Oh, it's so... Anyways, so why, like, that's stupid, right? Football is a sport and a ball. Football should be played with a football ball. Pickleball should be played with a pickleball ball. Why? It's just weird. It doesn't make any sense. That is the way things need to be, right? Otherwise, it just simply does not make any sense. Now, in a similar vein, let's talk about blacksmiths. Blacksmiths are people that smith. Specifically, blacksmiths blacksmith, right? But now imagine you had a black blacksmith. Okay, then in that case, he would be a black blacksmith. Safety. Now imagine that blacksmith smithed for the Smith family. Then he would be the Smith's black blacksmith. And now imagine that the Smith's black blacksmith was also named Smith. In that case, he would be the Smith's black blacksmith Smith. But we can keep going. Now imagine that the Smith's black blacksmith Smith had a son, and he decided to name his son Blacksmith. then that would be the... Oh, and actually, while we're on the topic of this, what if the Smiths family were also black? It would be the Black Smiths, blacksmiths, blacksmith. That's what it would be. Isn't that crazy? That's just phenomenal. Miss Kennedy has squeaky knees. She smells like moldy cheese. Miss Kennedy is a dump. She smells like an old water pump. Compared to a whale, Miss Kennedy is fatter. She smells like fecal matter. Miss Kennedy smells like expired meat. She is as useless as a helicopter ejector seat. Miss Kennedy is the worst thing about school. Her stomach is the size of an Olympic swimming pool. Miss Kennedy's brain cell count is 17. She is as useless as windshield wipers on a submarine. But we can take this whole blacksmith thing much further when we consider the fact that names, there are common names and there are uncommon names. Certain names are banned in certain places of the world, but the majority of names can be anything. You could name someone Blacksmith, like Smith, the blacksmith, did to his son, Blacksmith. But why does it have to stop there? Imagine for a second that he named his son Black Black. His first name was Black Black. His middle name was Smith Black, and his last name was Smith Smith. In that case, he would be, get ready for this, the Black Smiths, Black Blacksmith, Black Smith Black Smith Smith. Isn't that something? That is a title and a half, man. I do say. That, is about as far as we take it without getting into ridiculous name territory, such as, if his name was Blacksmith, Smith Black, at that point, that's just silly. But in terms of as titles go, that's basically as far as we're getting with this whole thing. But in theory, you could have your title be 1,000 characters long if you just, kept on adding blacks and smiths, just the whole blacksmith thing. You could, in theory, you could go on forever. There's really no limit, is there? I don't know if there's like a character limit on names, but And I think that serves as an excellent segue into my next point. I went to the bank today, but I had an appointment with a teller, except I was 30 minutes late. But that's not okay. Instead of saying I was 30 minutes late, I was like, I'm negative half an hour early, right? That's crazy. So I wasn't late. Safety. I was negative half an hour early. This story that I'm telling in the present, I am telling as if it took place in the present. This story did not take place in the present. It took place in the past. And when I say that, I mean the far past. I think this happened like many, many moons ago. I'm just getting around to telling it now. When I first learned about the word rectify, I was with my dad in the car, and he was going barbecue shopping. And he was like, yo, I'm about to go buy a barbecue, and I want coffee. So he was like, go to the coffee shop, which was by the barbecue shop, and get me a coffee. So I was like, yeah, no problem. What kind of coffee you want? And he was like, I would like an Americano with milk. And I was like, okay. So I go to the coffee thing, and the lady at the counter is like, yo, what do you want? And I was like, can I get an Americano with milk, please? But as soon as I said Americano, she kind of like went away and started making, I don't know if she caught the with milk part, right? And so after she made the Americano, she gave it to me in a cup, and I was like, well, I was on my way. Safety. And I hand the Americano to my dad. He takes one sip, and he was like, no. This is no bueno. There is no milk in here. And I was like, well, I told the lady to put milk. And he was like, you imbecilic shit dumpster. You have to put the milk in yourself. And I was like, God damn it, rats. So I was like, okay. And he was like, and then he hands me the cup, and he goes, rectify. So I was like, okay. And then I went back into the coffee shop, and I put milk in his coffee. I rectified it, Rectify. Centrifuge. Centrifuge. Huge. I walked it. Let me tell you, that coffee shop was a truly fantastic coffee shop. Let me tell you. There is no better coffee shop in the history. Never in the history of this country has there been a better coffee shop than that coffee shop. I walked in, I was like, wow, what an amazing coffee shop. It is hugely successful coffee shop. They gave me a chocolate with my coffee. I said an Americano, and they gave me a chocolate with my Americano. Absolutely phenomenal. Never has there been a better coffee shop than this coffee shop by the barbecue shop, let me tell you. Nothing will beat it. Nothing will beat it. It is the best. It is the greatest, the most huge coffee shop in the history of this country. All the other coffee shops, they do not even compare to this one coffee shop. T-perm. Y-perm. N-perm. M-perm. Z-perm. H-perm. RB-perm. J. A. Perm. A simple fact of life is that jars of peanut butter are filled with peanut butter. But what if you imagined that you took a jar of peanut butter and you took all the peanut butter out and you filled it with beans? Would it be a jar of beans or a bean-filled jar of peanut butter? Because the jar once had peanut butter in it, and it was a jar of peanut butter, does it retain that peanut butter-ness after the peanut butter is removed? Because it once was a jar of peanut butter, does it stay a jar of peanut butter just filled with something else? Or does the type of jar that it is entirely depend on the content of the jar? That is the question. Yummers. Pig.